Hey there, peoples. Hey, light beings, light bearers, and light bringers. Today is Sunday. Uh, what? Sunday the what? I think it's the 18th, right? Well, anyways, I'm bringing to you some more uh, inspiration because this ideas, these thoughts come from the universe to me, and I have to share it to you immediately when as it comes to me. And today we're talking about breaking deception. First, we got to recognize what is deception. Deception is wiping out the true understanding of self, of this God, of what is righteous on the planet, and why it's order. It's understanding the true order of things and why the 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 one that is the entity, the defective wants so much for itself to be exuberated or to be dominant in this world that we all live in, and why it's so important to understand the true order needs to come about and why. Um, First of all, I did talk in past conversations about the Bible and how the Bible has been manipulated to go along with the whole narrative that I know that you all don't understand what's going on in my mind, but the whole narrative of color, black versus white, or Caucasianism, as I so call it, and why the ones who are of color, dark skinned Negroid people, are so much hated and mistreated. And the understanding of that is very critical. If you can understand that, and you can understand why the world has been the way it is, why everything is what it is. Okay. First, I'd like to talk about the breath. The breath. Because I thought about this deeply. And we got to understand breath is air. Air is thought. Thought is creation, is everything that we see. That's why thought is the thinking is critical to manipulate for the defective. The defective wants control over everything because the defective is weak and it needs that control to live. We see this in science. We see this with organisms. This is proven to us time and time again in nature. The weak organism is always going to feed off of the stronger organism. And a lot of times it'll feed off, we see it in plants. We see the weak organism needing the plants for survival because it can't get directly what it needs like the plant does. Um, so, like I said, this is natural. This is in nature, period. In this paradigm that we are occupying at this time. So, when the Bible says they breathe life into them, some people would think that that means they have manipulated us to think that everything that has breath was created, was not created, but was given life, that everything that breathes was necessarily given life, given, because they take it literally. They made it literal. Ancient meanings, ancient writings have been made pretty much literal. So the whole Bible is taken literally instead of, that's why it has a physical face and it has a spiritual face. The spiritual face, and we as Black people, period, in the Black community have always talked to this day in a language where we see other people who don't have the same thought abilities. And when I'm going to go through the thought abilities, where they will end up, we'll say something very street, and they'll take it literally. That in itself is proof, a little proof to what I'm trying to say as far as thought. Because thought is only unique to a specific group of beings. So this is the way it is. It is not something that all received. All didn't receive thought. And thought is nothing more than the air, it's the breath of life. It's the ability to feel without environmental influences being taught. You don't have to be taught to feel for someone. That actually starts at a young age. You don't have to be taught what's wrong, what's right. You don't have to be taught what as far as loving, being loving to others. That's something that you don't have to be taught. That is something that you should naturally receive in your environment. The environment that where you were giving natural laws. An environment where you don't have natural laws, it's because natural laws don't exist within that body or that community. So there's a difference. So there's a group, there's a being that has to learn these things, and we've been taught because we've been under this. We've been under this these ways that we've been pretty much learning everything from the outside. We haven't had the ability, we haven't been allowed the ability to learn from the inside of self, because all that's been wiped away from us as a people through slavery, through a lot of things that we've had to endure. So, because our natural ability has been replaced by an artificial, and we continue to do this, we do this to our bodies physically. We replace it with medicine, our natural mechanisms that have the ability to do things on their own, but we've been replaced by doctors who give us medications to replace those natural abilities of the body to work on its own. So a lot of natural things have been pretty much eliminated. So when nature in itself is proof that a lot of the the people who have not had the natural ability of thought and have to learn thought artificially from another source, when there's a group of people who have the ability of thought placed within them. Hence, a lot of us black queens get called thoughts. And when you look at that, it equates to, in itself, it proves, a lot. It proves a lot in itself. When you pretty much created an equation, because a lot of men in our society equate black females to thoughts. And that in itself is saying that you are God, which is true. The female, the black female, the black woman is the first. Darkness is the first. So that mathematically in letters is a proven equation. So pretty much what I say is pretty much evident and proven in itself. I don't have to, you don't really have, all you have to do is open up your eyes and see. I is your internal God inside of you that is guiding you. So open that up and allow all that information to seep into you and come to you. And pretty much it is evident who has thought and who does not have the natural essence of thought. And this is important because, as the Bible says, you be able to decipher the Bible in this manner, through literal and spiritual. Spiritual is more realistic for us, and the literal is just it's a lower way of understanding, a lower way of understanding a higher knowledge. And it really doesn't, so you got to be careful too, because when you understand the Bible at a lower knowledge than what it is, you get into this world that we see now, where in this world that we see now, we see emotions, we see war, we see, as a result from emotions, war, we see disorder, we see reflections, projections, all kinds of lower energies come from this. A whole lot of lower energies. It's just a domino effect that people don't understand. They think that you can go to church and you're receiving this lower knowledge, and you come home and you're supposed to be a certain way. But whenever you divide good and evil, the good is saying that they're better than the bad. The bad is saying they're better than the good. You got constant war going on when you division. Um, and you got a whole lot of misunderstanding. And it's like detrimental to the ones who were given the breath of life, were giving, which is the extraterrestrials, because the breath of life is thought. Thought is um, love, understanding, already coming here knowing what the order is, because our great 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 ancestors, ancient ancestors, had a natural order, and they set everything in place for us here. But the defect has, through their nature, created a whole lower energy realm for us to be in. And us in our good nature has been dragged down to a lower way of being, which is artificial, very artificial for us, and very, very weakening for us, and not really beneficial to us in any kind of way, because it doesn't, it will never build us up if we stay in this condition. We can build ourselves up. We can, because God can get through. We can get through anything. But the whole thing about it is we cannot remain in it. We have to, like I said, change our mind and change our state. And that mind and state is to break down what the lower level, lower realm has built around us in the mind and in our surroundings existing. Breaking that is liberation in itself, and not any longer allowing ourselves to be deceived, and uh, allowing our hearts to be taken advantage of. Because it's not anything that we need to prove anymore. It's never been anything that we needed to prove. We've always had it. You have the natural, like I said, the crystals, which is the oil, which is the carbon that seeps from our eye, from the God, internal God, and before it was kind of very, very tough for me to decipher these things, but even though I thought, I went along with the, okay, I got it, I got it, I got it, but I didn't really have it. But I kept saying to myself that I got it, I got it, I got it. It takes a while for things to click. You know what I'm saying? It takes a minute. Hey, peace, Deacon of Defense. Yes, it takes a minute for things to click in as far as this knowledge. So it took me a while. I was like, okay, I understand that the Bible's extra logical. Okay, how am I gonna? I'm telling people about these verses, but I have them when I'm alone. I have them in my mind running through, like today. But I'm like, how can I remember them? But then today it was like it's gonna come to you automatically, and it came to me automatically. I'm feeling the realms of my grandfather, my grandmother, and in this place where my grandfather's brother lived for years before he passed away in beautiful coastal Hampton. And I was driving around, and I was just feeling them. I felt them over me, and around me, and they probably in the car with me, driving around and stuff, and just feeling their essence, was just great. And of course, I just had a birthday pass on the 15th, and just had the most beautiful sunrise come over me, where everything just was like just lit up and beautiful on my birthday. And I was just like, this is just, I was like, I know the sun has to be over me, above me, or it's rising somewhere, but it was behind me rising. Thank you, Kim. Thank you. And like I said, it's been one spiritual week for me. It really has. And I tell you, there's never a time when this filthy funk air is not trying to attack you. And I had my times, when you're trying to break free from and liberate self from everything. Everything. I mean everything. You can't run from it. You can't be like it. It's a lower energy that you have to overcome and rise above. Rise above it. That's the only way. Overcome it and rise above it. Um, and definitely, get to the rightful narrative, because everything has been manipulated and rewritten to a lower standard, lower state, lower frame of mind, lower ideologies. When you have thought, when you are thought, I should say, because I've had some pretty mean messages thrown at me. Um, when you are thought, that is something to be celebrated, because that is that's like, you do have the oil, you have the melanins, you want to call it, or the carbon in you, and you need to utilize that, you know, and understand what people are saying, that they don't know what they're saying. Like, I was called a bitch, but yeah, that is my bloodline. I'm a witch, because bitch is witch, and I have the bloodline of witches. So, like I said, I've come into my true self. As you get older, you become into your true self, and your true abilities start to show. Your true That's what's so great about getting older. that they don't want you to know, because you're supposed to take your time, breathe, come into realization. I think that we all, people of thought, humans, come into realization. I wanted to say at the same time, but maybe some just don't know it because it goes unnoticed. But I can tell because we end up doing the same thing. You know, some will let their realization pass them by because they are not aware. They haven't been able to. They're like working these fast jobs and job requiring them to stress all the time. You don't have the time to take out. And if you're in that situation, you should look at the elders before you and how life turned out for them, because they were forced to do the same thing. See, and you have to look around you and see what the signs are telling you about the society that we're in and about how it is ruled by the lower energies. We, people of thought, have to rise up above the lower energy, change the narrative to its proper narrative. And what I mean by that is kind of like there was a group of writers who were trying to, I forgot what they were trying to do. They were trying to go through and I can't think of the word for it. Mm. Dig up the truth and put it out forward, bring it forward. And see, that's exactly right now what as individuals, human as from the human ancestry, need to be doing right now. We need to be changing the way things have been put out in the lower realm. They tell us the importance of knowledge in the lower realm. So we know that knowledge is important to them. Why is knowledge important to them? Because control, keeping us weak in our resolve. There's many, many ways they keep us weak in our resolve. By thinking we have an enemy, and you do not have an enemy, because nothing can be your enemy. You're not weak. You're just made to think that we're weak. And through their learned mechanism of empathy and sympathy and love, they can manipulate us through that as well. To be truly genuine is to truly understand that you cannot walk over the atrocities that people have been through. It's not that easy. It's plain and simply not that easy. It's not that easy to glaze over the atrocities that one group of people have sustained. The greatest way of love is not weakening someone's heart that is already on display and um, there for manipulation, but to lift up a group of people above yourself. That's the greatest love. When we have done that as a people, we have lifted up a group of people already above ourselves. So, and we haven't even been lifted at all. We haven't even been able to lift. And when we did lift ourselves, our people lifted ourselves. We didn't have the knowledge of self. We weren't ready for that. Some of us did have it, but for the most part, we didn't have it strongly because it's supposed to be a sense of protection around us as well. So when we had Wall Street, there was some elements, something missing in that we were able to be penetrated. So when you think about it, it was our spirituality because they had us through slavery still thinking that Jesus and God, they had already wiped our protection away from us. Our protection is the I within us, self-knowledge and understanding that the God in us is our guide, that we don't worship anything. There's no such thing as worship. Um, Understanding the self outside of us, which is also God, and the me, which is, of course, me talking to you now. Um, Deacons of Defense says that's true. And with that, we would have had the shield of protection around us, knowing that we can manipulate energy, the frequencies, dealing in frequency, dealing in alchemy, dealing in those things naturally would have produced our protection for self. But when we take on their ways, that's when we are able to be easily penetrated. And our hearts, our righteous hearts. So when they say, don't let no one tell you, black man, black woman, that you're the same as they are inside and out. A dog has a heart, a dog has breath. But think, what is unique about breath that no one else has, or no other animal, by animal, that just means spirit only. They don't have the ba and the ka, the soul and the spirit. They just only have spirit. They're animated. They're animal. So, with that said, you understand that a dog has breath. So it's not unique. Breath, air is not unique. It's not literal. So the code word air covers up the trueness of thought, thinking, having the ability to process your righteousness, and let it emulate, let it burst from outside of you and shine you white as snow. It shows on the outside of us the pureness, the innocence, things that don't need to be taught. My children don't need to be taught, how to treat other people. They naturally know to be nice to people. They don't look like them. It's within them, and I would not change what's within them. Although it's important to make them aware in the world that I live in that there's such danger. Same like you would do for a lion. You would say that's an animal. That's a lion called a lion, and it does such thing to you if you're around it. Yes, yes, definitely, they should be treated correctly. Yeah, definitely. And yeah, definitely. That's what I'm talking about, Deacon. I'm talking about making them aware that certain animals, certain people out there may be a danger. You know what I'm saying? And teaching them that that might be a danger, they should know that they should be treated way better than that. You know? So if something's a danger, you see what I'm saying? Yeah, it has the possibility of harm to your life. You know, so be careful of it. Be wary of it. You know. And being that our whole world has been manipulated doesn't mean that we don't, black people don't hate. We don't hate. We don't seek to destroy things one bit. We don't seek destruction. We're builders. We're builders. We don't need weapons of mass destruction. Even though some of us, but unfortunately, that's why I call it the grandma in the corner. We don't recognize the white grandma in the corner, the Caucasian old grandmother in the corner, who has tainted, who has tainted us in such a way, some of us, that in our blood, some of our people do seek that revenge because um, that has been ingrained in them through the environment. Everything that black people do is environmentally learned. You see, this is what I mean by thought. Thought, there's people that don't have thought. They don't have the way, the, the process, the ability to process. And when they don't have the ability to process, they don't have the ability to see things. All they can do is do an action, like pounce on you like an animal. Act. And acting, all they know is survival. Survival is important to them by any means necessary. I was trying to tell my brother this because he was saying he agrees with me, but he was saying that everybody is suffering now. Yeah, because the system that they created is for their benefit, and it's for their benefit by any means necessary. But they don't have the thought capacity like we have the thought. They have a limited. See, they don't have infinity. They don't have. They have a, like, you're gonna hear a lot of them say they have a dome over the planet. That's because they feel like that. They have a dome over them. Don't fall for that and say, well, I have a dome over me, or that this. No, we don't have a dome over our mind. They have a dome over them. They have a dome over them. If they weren't limited, why do you think the situation they could, as they have done this situation? It's a limited situation. They can only do that of limited results. So when they put us in this situation, their thinking didn't go beyond anything. Didn't go beyond any, you know, place where it wasn't well thought out. It's not a well thought out ideology of, because eventually there's going to come a time. But one thing they did do is keep us in a lower realm. The lower realm, by what I mean by that, is like having us fight amongst each other, female, male, hate each other, black male, black female, hating each other. They have us thinking of young and old, light skin, dark skin, petty, petty things, no importance to anybody. It doesn't put any kind of life into your system, into your life force. It doesn't. It just lowers you to a lower energy, where has you perpetuating, sprucing out lower energy things that are not of life. It actually makes you a mini destructor. And instead of you bringing life, you taking life, and that's what state we're in at this time, where we're just taking life. But if you have this awareness of self, you understand that you are here for a purpose. Both male and female have their individual purposes, and it's not just about fucking. It's not just about fucking. It's important to be together because that's energy, but from a lower understanding, you cannot project on me that I think that men are here to serve women on purpose. That's that's their understanding. That's this air that we're in. That's that thinking, that lower state of thinking. Me, I'm of a higher state of thinking. So when I say my husband came to my life spiritually because I summoned him, I don't mean that he came to save me, because that's not what it came out to be. I came out to realize that I had to save myself. I have a God inside of me. But he came as a helpmate, and I'm his helpmate. Because when he came into my life, he says he needed me for his life. And that's what all men, black men, when I get on this subject, it's very important, because right now the black man is running from the black woman when he needs his black woman. But they got us vanity. They got us into thinking that we're an ugly people, that we sexually turn off by each other and sexually turns on to something else. So that in itself is proof that they are breaking up and broken us up. So we're coming into what they call the state of art time. That's what they want, state of art. So now that they have broken up the black man from the black woman. We see the black man producing uh, a life with the white woman. We see this in Hollywood because we see the fictitious Hollywood. Um, Black men get money and they go to the white woman and produce children with them. Remind you, they want state of art. Okay. We don't need state of art. We want state of realism, state of realistic living. We want the state of life, not the state of art, imitating life. We want life in the real. So, the state of life in the real, the truth. So, when they do that, we got to realize, because I'm going to get deep, I have to go into it deeply, and it's, we got to realize that you are not producing a black person. You are producing a destruction into the black community again by creating destruction, because you're bringing in more colorism, you're bringing in a lower thought, because thought doesn't come through the white woman. Thought comes through who was created first? The dark, the black woman. That's where thought gets produced. So the black man has gone off, and him not knowing himself spiritually, that he has a spiritual force that is strong and needs to be utilized. That is destruction in itself, because he is no longer a contribute to the black community, to a world that needs him in our uprising. So they don't tell you about the spiritual warfare, but we see it every day, and that's the spiritual warfare right there, is producing ticking bombs and RIDs in the community, roadside, bombs, and just to enforce more colorism, take over cultures, to do extreme damages. And that's what happens on the spiritual side. But like I said, all of that can be overcome. That's not a concern, because it still doesn't get seen, no matter how much. That doesn't get seen in the spiritual world. If you ain't lit, if you are in the light, and you're not lit here, then the spiritual world does not even see you. It can't see you, because you're not into the true self, because you don't have the eye, the God inside guiding you, because you're not connected. You wouldn't be connected. So that's why that wouldn't be concerned in the spiritual, but it is a concern in the physical because only because um, it breaks up the energy. But we have a lot of black men and a lot of black women out here, enough to who are coming into themselves, who are on the same level as I am, who are, actually doing the same thing I'm doing, talking, speaking to people about this, about what is coming to them. They feel it. They too have people coming to them spiritually and telling them, hey, speak on this, talk this, tell this. It's very critical, very important that the people understand where to go to see evidence. It's a very hidden place. It's it's here. So, and then a lot of us, because I've had it happen to me where I'm not listening, I'm not hearing because I'm so busy in the grain of this lower level that they got me so pushing me to do this, pushing me to live this way, pushing me to forget about self, and then forgetting about self, the self outside of the God outside of me, that energy, that they have me calling Satan, they have me calling because it comes out of us. It's the force, it's the Trinity, it's the third part of us. You see, I, me, that is speaking to you now, the animated me, and then the self. That's the frequency, the energy that has been manipulated because we all have that. Every one of us thought, black man and black woman, we have it outside of us. Because remember, black men, you can't think like them because the whole thing is, if the black woman's a thought, then wouldn't you be a thought? So, um, and we're not talking the lower realm of the sexual, but the way they talk about it, because everything's sexual up in the air here, you know. So I won't hold y'all too long. I know people are leaving. I know you are leaving. But I wanted to put that across, and I hope that you understand that the air, when he says breath, breathe breath into them, not talking about oxygen to breathe. That's literal. It's talking about stability, think, thought. So until next time, you're welcome, Beacons of Defense. I don't call it teaching, I call it guidance. And if I'm guided, I'm going to give, as a spiritual guide that I am, I'm going to be bringing my cousin on, and it's going to be four of us on, and we're going to be talking about chi and feng shui, and about my one cousin. She's a healer. She's a spiritual healer. So we're going to be talking about healing and what she does, and then S. Wiseman, and then my other cousin Lydia. We're going to all be on the hangout. We're going to do hangout as soon as I get it together, because like I said, my iPad is dysfunction. It's going to cost me $60 to fix the dysfunction of my iPad. So just bear with me. I'm going to get it together. I'm probably going to do it on the computer, but I do need the iPad to I really did need the iPad to show you all around, cause so it's going to be a minute before I get that together. But with that said, always remember true love, real peace, the higher self within, I, me, and self on the outside. And take control of yourself on the outside, because that's energy, that's high frequency, and nothing could be above that. Nothing is destructive. Even though they tell us Satan is destructive, we don't have an enemy because the enemy is not high enough to defeat us. And we live through intensity. Always remember that, people and family. Until next time, true love and peace.